Sisters in Service. Welcome to another episode of our program. My name is Kat Corchado, and today I am interviewing a woman from Australia. So what you don't know is that I had reached out to some women across the pond, so to speak, and I was wondering a lot about their service, their uniforms. How long did they have to serve? What was their transition was like? And so I've had two women so far who have reached out to me. And this is the second that I'm doing, and I'm going to be doing 3 total. So today I am interviewing the veteran, the trailblazer, the goddess, Anastascia Kompos from Australia. Anastascia, welcome, girlfriend. How are you?
Welcome, girlfriend. Sister in service. What an introduction. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So just a little backstory here. We had done an initial consult before this, and we had decided, Anastascia and myself, we have decided that when you get to a certain age, you should be allowed to call yourself goddess, diva, and or queen. Okay. Now, I'm not making anybody call me that right now. Of course, as I get older, it might change. So I thought it'd be cute to introduce her that way. How are you, dear?
Well, aren't we all goddesses and queens, you know?
Aren't we?
Yeah, but it takes a little while for us to go a bit older to feel worthy of owning that, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you don't, as my dad used to say, you don't get to be this age being stupid. You know, you're this age for a reason. You got here either by luck and learning a little bit along the way. Yeah. So Anastascia, you were in the Air Force in Australia, correct? Tell us a little bit about that. How long did you serve? The number of deployments, where did you deploy, if at all?
No deployments back then. It was I served 11 years. And it was the Air Force, as you said. There were no deployments back then. We were going through a time of cutting down numbers.
There
was a lot going on, and we weren't being deployed. And a lot of us were actually frustrated because we wanted to. So my time in the service was a little bit different to now.
Yeah. Now, you were in the 80s, right? You went in the military in the 80s? Yeah. See, I was in the 80s too, and there really wasn't anything going on. It was just you were wearing the uniform and you were just there. There was nothing really going on.
Our base was attacked. One of the wars, I can't remember at this moment, and people were throwing paint and blood at our base out at RAF Base Amberley. We had to be careful of wearing a uniform when we went into the city because people were abusing us. So there was stuff going on the outside, and we were copying some of that. Yeah.
Right. So take us back to the 80s. What were I've been talking to some women, and they were saying that, the uniforms weren't exactly made for women. How were you treated in the military in Australia?
Back when I joined, there was not very many females. There was some female apprentices that were doing trades. However, see, I was in the logistics area. It was called Clark Supply back then. It's now called logistics. And there was females that did admin. So there was not many female. The male to female ratio was very few females with like hundreds and thousands of men back then. So it was a very different Air Force or military to now, very different. And I'm sure you would find it's different for other females now compared to when you were in.
Oh, absolutely. I think when I went to boot camp, we were one of the first flights in boot camp to have a male TI, training instructor.
Wow. Okay.
Because it was, women flight, it was, women TI, so things were changing at that point. But not like they are now. They have flights, I think, of men and women together. And I was like,
that's right. That's right. No, we were still separate. There was different flights of males and females. Yes, now they're mixed. So we were coming into a time where things were starting to change. It seems we both were in different ways. Yes. So we came in of an old system and an old of the boys club. It was very boys club. And then that started to change. As you're going to ask me some things, I'm going to share how I was part of that change.
Right. So You notice I introduced her as Trailblazer, so she's going to tell us some stuff. But before we go there, I was reading your bio, and you said you were the first generation Greek Australian female to join the Air Force. So how did your family feel, or did they support you in this endeavor?
They were very shocked. I'd left home. I was working in a bank. I felt this really strong. I was very independent. My mother was very, very strong woman. I call her the original trailblazer. Our mothers weren't they? Mm-hmm. And so I was working in a bank. I'd left home, and I just had this really strong calling to join. I can't explain it. It was just something, when you get a passion and you just get this passion inside of you that you just know you need to do this. It was that passion that I had. Yes. Okay. There was no explanation. It was just a calling. And so I just quietly, secretly, now I've got a pretty loud mouth, being a very excitable and proud and loud Greek. And my nature is I'm a very bubbly personality. And so I just joined, and I went and passed the test. And then when I joined, then I was visiting, flipping the paper on the counter. I can still remember that day. I said, oh, by the way, I joined the Air Force. I'm going away. And their jaws, they were dead silent because I was not known. They knew I was serious about it because I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I wouldn't do those things, whereas I didn't do this that way. So they didn't say anything. They were very quiet. They went, okay. So I was quite blessed that I didn't have the really strong Greek. I did have a strong Greek family connection, yet I didn't have it like I was in a major city. We were in a small country town where they didn't get as much freedom as what I did. I was very lucky. So this was new and a bit of a shock and a surprise. So they had no clue. See, when I did my recruit training, there was 3 trophies handed out. I got 2 of the 3. Girl. So I did exceptionally well. And
yes, you did.
But it was also, darling, no one turned up. I was the only one that didn't have family, I'm pretty sure. It was very lonely. So that was the beginning of, you're different. You stand out and you're different. And so I'm pretty sure I am. When I say something, I like to back it up. Now, when I shared in the bio the first generation Greek Australian, that's because I never met another one at that time. I've asked a couple of other females. They said no other Greek females ever joined. It was not the done thing. So
they did the traditional roles, so to speak. You weren't encouraged
absolutely.
to. But after they found out, you were actually supported by them, correct? After they found out you were in?
Well, I wasn't not supported. So, yes.
There you go. Yeah, that's awesome.
Because my mother did try some of the traditional things, but she's the kind of person that her family got her to do some things that back then you did what your family said. So she didn't want that to happen to us. And so she didn't do that to us. So I'm very blessed to have the mother that I have.
Yes. Yeah, she was a trailblazer.
Still is.
Still is.
So, yeah.
So what was your transition like from the military? Was it easy? Was it hard? And you can get to the other stuff later, because I know you've got some stuff to talk about, but I know that here in the States, women have a tendency to not transition as easily as some men, or most men, I should say, because of the fact that, when we go in the military, we're military women, we're mothers, we're doing the household. Then we get out, we're still moms, we're still maintaining the household. And who has time to connect with other women, women veterans? So did you have a hard time, or was it just fairly easy for you?
No, did I ever? Because I was medically discharged, which you said you're going to lead me to share. You're keeping a check on everything. It was extremely difficult because I left under hush circumstances because of the PTSD and the abuse. And so it was for 12 months, I would look in the mirror and say, I am no longer Corporal Kompos. I did not know who I was. I was extremely lost for a whole 12 months. It was what I call a black year. I was so deep in the post-traumatic stress because there was no support. I was completely lost. So extremely difficult, extremely. That was my life's mission, my calling, and that was cut off, and I didn't have a choice, and I wanted to serve much longer. And only since I'm coming in here. Have I let this go 30 years later of the frustration? I'm a determined woman, and that choice was taken away from me. That choice was taken away from me. So my situation is a little bit different. However, I would say similar. And it never leaves us. I'm still in
No.
many military groups and this, that, because the comradeship, it's in my blood. I cannot explain any other way.
No, I get it.
Do you feel that
Yes,
too?
I feel that too. I still feel like I'm transitioning. I mean, it's been 21 years for me, and I still
don't
feel
feel
like,
we're ever going to. I don't feel, darling, I don't feel we ever will, really, really. I feel it's a big part of us, isn't it? So there's nothing really to transition. We've got to learn to cope, though. So,
I just find it interesting that even though you're in a different country and you're a veteran, that you suffered from the transition period just like we do over here. So it's I think it's universal.
I do, but can I say, with the word veteran, I'm not a war veteran. I call myself, and I actually don't even call myself a veteran. However, one of the things, there's arguments over here in Australia about who's a veteran, who's not a veteran. And I just, in a group, and I put my hand up, I said, listen, just because some of us didn't go to war, I call myself a veteran of the abuse that I suffered in my own personal war in the military. I didn't have to go away. So I'm cautious about using the word veteran.
Oh, honey, I'm going to call you a veteran only because you wore the uniform. You wore the uniform. You're a veteran. Okay. You're a veteran. And I'm not taking no for an answer. So
good for
moving
you.
on.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
In your bio, you also listed you were the first female in Australia to march with a rifle on ANZAC Day, Queensland. Can you explain what ANZAC is and give us a little backstory on that?
Australian New Zealand Army Corps or Armed Corps. Forgive me, Aussies, for not knowing that right off the bat here. I'm just feeling my way and sharing for the first time in 30 years. We have our yearly, which is coming up this Monday for us, a yearly march that it's in commemoration of everybody that has served and died in the services, past and and from World War One, further on, and it's a huge parade in each major city of Australia of Army and Air Force and Navy and all the old diggers, and it is the most amazing, tearful time of respect. And so, yes, only males did it before. So when they called us up, who wanted to volunteer, and I was one of the boys, it was like when I turned up, and he looked and he said, no, your breasts are out of place. You can't do it. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what did you do to win the right to do that?
Well, I went back to work and there was another female. I was thinking the other day, what is this officer's name? She called me aside and she said, I heard you went to volunteer and warrant officer such and such knocked you back. She said, you go back and you do that if you want to. And if he harasses you, you let me know. So she was a female officer that somehow someone told him. So I turned up. He didn't like it, but he allowed me to do it. And I was like a celebrity. When we went down to Surfers Paradise in Queensland, I marched and people afterwards were taking photos and the other boys were saying, are they your family? I said, I don't know them, because they knew they'd never seen a female march with a rifle before. In 87, wow. I feel it was 1987. So it was a very big deal. And she said to me, we want to do a newspaper article on you. You're the first female in Australia.
Yes.
And maybe possibly another one in the Army somewhere in Australia, not sure. So you're the first female in the Air Force in Australia to march on Anzac Day with a rifle. We want to do an article on you. And then it just went by the by and didn't happen. And yeah.
See, I told you, trailblazer.
You got me.
So again, you were part of the new equal employment opportunity process.
Yes.
I'm surprised that there wasn't one already. So explain that story to us.
Well,
please.
we were the second base in Australia, because I was working very closely with the senior administrative officer back then, because I'd been through my abuse that I kept hush hush, he knew. And they were just bringing that in to have anyone, females or males, have somewhere to go if something happened and they were abused. There was nothing in place before then. We were the second base in Australia to get it. Darwin was the first base, he told me, and we were the second, and I was part of helping to implement that. And what happened was it got too big for me, so he brought another female high-ranking officer to take over from me. So behind the scenes, I was because I understood.
Yes.
So I was giving him great feedback because I was assaulted. And then I was re-triggered by a legal officer that re-traumatized and re-yelled at me and said, you can't handle this if you go and report it. I mean, what an arsehole. Sorry, I just got to say that. And I haven't slipped the F word yet. I've been a good girl. So we won't say put it in the bucket. Anyway, so I make no apologies really because as you said, when you grow a bit older, we don't need to apologise for who we are. When we've gone through any form of trauma abuse, it takes a long time to learn to step up and speak and voice up. And I'm here today because I've been really encouraged by a lot of females, younger females, to speak up. That doesn't matter how much you quiver, doesn't matter how much your voice shakes.
Right.
I said to you before we started, I'm a bit nervy in a good way for this is the first time I'm officially sharing this with someone. With you. So thank you for having me, and thank you for our sisters in service. Thank you.
But understand that you're helping someone else too.
I know.
There are people listening to this going, wow, that happens over there too. Because we think we're just isolated over here. That it never just happens here and it doesn't happen anywhere else.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to talk a lot about your PTSD. Now, can I just make a note real quick here? I hate the word D in PTSD because it makes me think, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. And when I hear disorder, it makes me feel as though it's it's your fault. You're the reason why you have it.
Well said. Okay? Love it. I love it. Yeah.
That's just me. It's a personal opinion. Great. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I like to call it PTS, and that's just me. You can call it whatever you want.
No, I actually really like that, and I agree with you 100% because it is no disorder.
Right.
It's 100%. Well done.
Yeah, or a syndrome or something. It's something outside of who you.
Syndrome.
We have to have something else on the end of that. We can't just go. So, are you comfortable speaking about your PTS? Yes. So, what happened? If you don't mind speaking about it.
No, because I will give I'll give a scenario, what I call, when I love telling stories, of my male boss. Now, these people are still around, so I am going to share yet cautiously.
Sure.
I'm still got that little bit of caution. It's I can't explain it. So, but I need to speak up and say the scenario was, I was physically assaulted at my workplace by my boss that got the shits with something and said that'll show her. And he shoved me so violently, I catapulted around the room, smacked my head in the concrete, smashed my back on the table. It was that violent that I had permanent damage in my neck and in my lower back from it. So, and then he laughed, walked off and went, ha, 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 that will show her. And left me lying flat on the floor, absolutely humiliated and shamed in front of colleagues. And I had sort of laughed and got up, and the shock and the bruises afterwards. Yes. And I was still in shock for 3 months because I had to work in that confined space. I had to go back day by day. And on a nearly daily basis, he would rip shreds outside of this area where other people could hear and continually humiliated me. I had to remain for 6 more years because in that humiliation, and I just deteriorated. I deteriorated. I went downhill. I was promoted early. I was very, as you know, bubbly, outgoing, and I just went downhill and I hid it inside.
Of
and
course.
I kept it inside. I had one person that was helping me. He was encouraging me to report it. I was, no. I was in that trauma victim. No, leave me alone. No, I can't say anything. There was, and so then I went to go to a legal officer. I showed my female boss the bruises. She didn't believe me. And yeah, there's
Wow.
lots of bits and pieces
That's
that I forgot.
unbelievable.
Very, very. And I just, because she liked him and whatever. And oh no, it couldn't be such and such. We got on really well. So and then when I went to a legal officer, he did like in the court, you can't handle the truth. He actually did that on me and yelled, and then I was re-traumatized again and had to
Right.
stay there. And I just went into my shell further and further, and then I went on antidepressants and further till
Hmm.
one day I just went up. I was working with the big bosses. I was so far ahead promoted, and because it was a boys' club, I would go be put in a job to clean up jobs, and because of the boys' club, one of the other boys would get promoted. This continually happened. I've got much more. There's many more instances. I'm just giving some
Wow.
to of oh, and that was just re-traumatizing again. So it was just
Over
this
and
big
over.
over
Yeah.
and over and over. So I was very also lucky. I had a warrant officer that was guiding me to get people's statements. He was saying, go to the medical, you need to report. He was ex-Vietnam vets. The only people I could relate to when I discharged, when you said to me about getting out, the only people I could relate to was Vietnam veterans. They were my friends. I
Right.
could not relate to anybody else. My trauma of repeatedly being traumatized again and again and again when I loved being there. It was such a shock to my
Hmm.
system. So, yeah, I don't know if you want me to add any more there.
No, I mean, you can say whatever you would like to say, but I do have a question. After you
Mm-hmm.
left the military, were there
Mm-hmm.
any programs? Did you have to go through any kind of, when we get out of the military, they give us a physical, we start to talk about our injuries and stuff. Was there anything to help support you after you left the military with your PTSD and emotional abuse?
That's a good question. Nowadays, I don't know. I can only say for me, I went into hiding for a year. I got to leave without pay, and that's unheard of. And I disappeared, and no one knew where I went. I was that fucked up in the head. I went to work, and I just had enough. I said, I'm not going to turn up tomorrow. And the officer knew, like mum and dad knew when I speak like that. And
Mm-hmm.
and no, people don't know that. They just pushed me away and hid me until I discharged. I had to fight my case, which is another thing you're going to ask me. I had to fight my case for 7 years to get support, to see psychs and everything. But no, darling, I had to do it myself. No, not back then. Absolutely not.
So your bio says that your case was heard at the highest level of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal.
Correct.
What kind of work did you have to do to get that together? I mean, it makes me feel like you were just by yourself, like you were doing all the work and no one was helping you.
They couldn't because there was not a system in place under the new military act. Depends, I don't know, in the States. Whatever year you serve, they have a certain act of compensation and what happens. And then they change the act and update it. So depends on the years you served for what act you fall under. I fell under the middle of two acts. Okay. So there was not they just brought in a new military compensation scheme. So again, I was at the beginning of this new scheme that I was qualified for. So I had to do all the work myself. And then I went to a solicitor in our state, and I call it War and Peace Part 1 and 2. I had that much documented paperwork. I took it in, I gave it to him. I said, look, this is what I've done for my own claim. And I went back, and do you know what he did? He pushed him straight back to me at the desk and he said, you keep going. You know more than us. You're doing the best job. So I did only have me, even the
Wow.
legal people at that time. And then I worked with a VSASA, Veteran Support and Advocacy Support Group in Toowong, and they helped me set up an office there. The Vietnam and Korean vets were fantastic, and I set up and I networked because I'm a people person. I love people. And I networked and I created this whole new system. And I then not only did I do my own case for 7 years, I then started helping others where they went to legal people and they said, no, we can't do your case. He came to me. I said, we've got 2 months left. And I put his claim in, and they sent an officer around the whole of Australia. It went to the Minister of Defence, and they granted this claim, and it changed this boy's life. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to do it myself. And that VSA helped me. They sent a representative to my tribunal, and they knocked me back because I was a female and because I was 32. I was too young to have PTSD.
According to them. According to them.
Exactly. But they were the board.
But the board was all men, right?
And the old school.
Yes.
So someone
my goodness.
Me, when my representative told me, this is my mother comes out in me, that stream, I went, you go back in and tell that board, where does it say you have to be a female to have PTSD? I'll still say PTSD at the moment, PTSD.
Well, it just sounds better when you say it.
Thank you. You're gorgeous. And where does it say you have to be a certain age? Because I got into the legal stuff, I got really clever. You know, I've actually pulled up a judge in court and corrected him once, and he said, yes, you're right, thank you. And so I'm not afraid to speak up because I do it in respect.
Right.
And I don't know where it comes from. And then I go, oh my gosh, did I do that? But at that time, I just know what I know. So he went back, and you know what? They turned it around, they granted it, and they back paid it for 12 months.
So I have a question.
They accepted it, yes.
Did you apply, you took it to the court and they denied it, and then you had to keep taking it back and they kept denying it? Or did it take 7 years for them to do that?
No, it took me 7 years to get through the layers and levels to reach the AAT. I had so many injuries. I had to go specialist appointments, letters. I had to put them like a legal document together. I was really clever. I was really, really clever. And I used that. And what it did, after it got accepted, I then crashed for 15 years. I was totally...
You were done. Yeah, you were done.
I was completely. However, then I got a call from our capital city that said, Anastascia Kompos, yes, this is the whoever government. We legally need to let you know that because of your case that you won, it's created a new rule in Parliament for all the other females in Australia in the military. Okay, bye. And I was just stunned.
Can you say trailblazer? I told you. You guys thought I was joking. That's just so sometimes you go into a funk. You just go into this. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
That would take a whole other podcast.
Do we need to do do we need to do a goddess Anastascia part 2?
That's your choice. There's too much to say how long and what it took. It took a lot. And that's why I now help others to help themselves that also suffer from any form of sexual PTSD, whatever, anything of that, because I've also been addicted to 5-script drugs as part of my healing. I was in a psych ward twice, briefly hiding. I've been through so much myself. And so my therapy now is being there for others as well, so we can all come together, sisters in spirit, sisters and brothers in spirit.
Right.
Okay, because it takes the broken to heal the broken is one of my sayings.
Yes.
It takes the broken, and I'm broken. I've been broken, and I take all my broken bits. I'm perfect in my imperfections. You know that saying?
I think we all are. It's like we're like mosaics. You know how sometimes you break a vase, wherever you say it, and then you put the pieces back, and it's not perfect, but it looks good anyway. It looks unique. Yes.
We are unique.
We are unique.
Yes.
See, there's another word. So what do you hope to do with all of this? See, I'm just going to have all these words to describe you here. What do you hope to do with some of this stuff that has happened to you? Are you looking to start a business to help others doing this? Are you doing this already?
No.
What do you hope to accomplish?
I have a website, YouTube, and Facebook of Anastascia Blue Beyond Guide, it's called. And what I do is, there's no business here. It's not about that. I'm done. I do what I love and my passion because I need to look after me first.
Of course. We all do.
Exactly. And with my back and my neck, because I went to hospital this year, I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. Oh. And I was suddenly on the 1st of January, I couldn't walk and move, and I was rushed emergency. And so I'm fine now because I'm doing rehab myself. So I am still carrying much of what happened from back then physically. And because of those 7 years I fought, I have the medical covered for myself for the permanent injuries that I sustained.
Right.
So even, and so I work with that. And so then I do on my terms to help people that want to help themselves. It's not a business. Far from it. I'm done. I'm not working. This is my therapy to
help others.
That's exactly right.
I love that.
It's therapy. Yeah.
I love that. I do. I was talking to someone and I said, even if I don't, people always want to say, oh, you're going to get paid for your podcast. I would do this even if nobody paid me to do it.
Exactly.
That's how passionate I am about this, So any last words, Anastascia, anything you'd like our audience to know?
The main reason I came was because in a group I have with beautiful souls was I said to them, why am I doing this? It's been 30 years, I've been through so much, and why? And one of the girls said, you know why? But you're doing it to help me. She said, because I'm still having difficulty speaking up and standing up for myself, and the innate courage and strength that you have helps me so much to hear your story and to hear that you're sharing now, and that gives them strength. So my greatest message is feel the fear, trust, always be safe. Yet we can't, this was 30 years ago, we can't go backwards.
No.
We need to go forwards. So you are stronger than you realize. There you go. There's my message. Everyone, we are stronger than what we may realize what we can do when we stick up and look after ourselves firstly.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that, Anastascia, like we were friends in another life somewhere, because if you've ever connected with someone, we connected immediately. It was so cool. Did. And that's part of the thing that I love doing this podcast is, you just get to talk to people and find out about them. So Anastascia, it's been such a pleasure having you on and having the audience really learn more about you and what service is like in Australia for women. And it's surprising to me that a lot of the things that are happening to women there and what happened to you is similar to what's happening here and has happened in the past. And it's sad that that's happening, but I am happy that there are changes that are happening. Yes. But I think that women all over the world really need to hear your story and hear how you survived. And I'm so glad that you're here today. So thank you so much for being a part of Sisters in Service.
Thank you. Thank you for having me being strong enough. You're the first one that I felt comfortable and safe with to be able to share this. So thank you for holding that space with me too.
And you're so welcome. So thank you everyone for listening in. Please be safe, take care of each other, and until next time. Do you find it difficult to come up with content ideas for your podcast? Or perhaps you've gotten stuck during an interview with a guest where you just have nothing to ask anymore? Try Poddex today. Poddex is the best all-in-one podcast idea generation tool. You get everything from episode ideas to interesting conversation starters for interviews, engaging discussions for your live streams, and even social media content ideas. With this tool, you don't have to spend weeks trying to come up with content for an episode or unique questions for your guests. Just shuffle the cards and pick one at random, hit the record button, and get started. Now you can make better content, have more fun while you're at it, and get your viral moment, all with Poddex. Head over to poddex.com and use code C4C.